salvation of Allah.
The show is, how did you become a Muslim, or what are the motivations, or what are the things that attracted you to Islam?
Actually, I learned about Islam when I was 8 years old, and it was in a very strange way. I found a pamphlet in my house talking about a Tawheed, the Islamic creed. I found it under my sofa, and I don't know where it came from. And I had this pamphlet from the age of 8 to the age of 15 or 16. And I practically memorized the entire thing. And I did not become Muslim until I was 16, but I knew about Islam. I wanted to be Muslim, but I just didn't know how to become Muslim.
You were 8 at that time?
Yes, I was 8 years old.
Okay, then?
Then it made me interested in studying more about my own religion at the time, because I used to be a Baptist. My mother even got me a private teacher to learn the Bible, and it brought about many questions. The pamphlet was speaking about Allah, that Allah doesn't rest, and the Bible was teaching us in Genesis that God created the earth in 6 days and rested on the seventh. So it made some genuine conflicts within creed for me as a child, and it really made me question my original faith.
It raised a lot of questions that are not answered.
Not answered in a clear manner, because yes, people do give answers, but oftentimes they're not very clear and not straight to the point.
Not answered, not convinced for you.
I was not convinced at all. As I asked one minister, one priest, sometimes I would get a different answer. My mother just said, take it on faith. But it just wasn't enough for me. She didn't know I was reading this other pamphlet. But eventually, as I got older and I began to study about Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, I began to realize that the only way of monotheism was Islam. It's simple. I just wanted to believe what Abraham alayhi salam believed.
Okay, then you embraced Islam at what age exactly?
I embraced Islam exactly on my 16th birthday. When I was a sophomore in high school, 10th grade, I met a Muslim. His name was Khalid, and he was wearing a kufi. He was dressed a little bit like a Muslim, and I asked him plain and simply, are you a Muslim? He said yes. Then I asked him, is there a mosque? At the time I just called it temple. Is there a place where you go to pray? He said yeah. Him and his dad, they were going that same Friday. He asked me to join them. I said definitely. I went to Jummah for the first time. As soon as the khutbah was done, I stood up and said I wanted to be a Muslim.
Okay, that was in US?
Yes.
And in New York?
No, this actually took place in Atlanta, in Stone Mountain, Georgia. I found out about Islam at 8 years old in New York. My mother moved me down to Stone Mountain, Georgia after junior high school. I spent my high school years in Georgia.
Okay. And did you face some difficulties? Can you name some of the difficulties that you have faced during that time?
The difficulties are not what some people would expect, especially for a new Muslim. My family, they didn't fight me too much. They showed their disapproval. My mother said, I didn't give you permission to become a Muslim.
At the beginning, of course.
Yes, at the beginning. But the resistance wasn't too strong. The main obstacle, I realized that my journey to Islam was going to be a bit smooth. My journey in Islam was going to be a bit rough. My journey was the journey to the Sunnah, because I used to be a Sufi. So there were many misunderstandings in regards to how to worship Allah correctly, how to adhere to the Quran without false interpretations. So this was where my obstacles really came in. It was within the religion.
Okay, what was the reaction of your friends, your closest friends, the people around you?
My closest friends, some of them...
When they knew that you embraced Islam?
My closest friends, some of them, they looked at me a little bit strange, and some of them actually cheered me on. They started calling me Malcolm X, just teasing a little bit, but those were just some close friends. But my friends never really opposed me. Most of them never really opposed me. Even though they didn't become Muslim, they never really stood in my way.
So they supported you?
More so just leave them alone and see what happens kind of thing.
At what time? I mean, for the first 3-4 weeks, or the first months, or...
Oh, for the first year.
For the first year?
Yes.
They were waiting for some action.
Yes, they were waiting for, like, is this a phase? Is he gonna, like, come back to normal soon? They were just waiting to see what happens.
Okay. In your opinion, through your experience, what are the main aspects that might encourage people to Islam? I mean, we have some kind of i'jaz, the scientific discoveries in the Quran that was, mentioned more than 14 centuries. So, do you think that these discoveries attract people to Islam, or at least to read about Islam?
They attract people who are on a strong intellectual level. And this is something to really keep in mind, that people who are well educated, well read, yes, they're very attracted to these aspects of the religion, the scientific proofs. But as for many other people, they don't have strong formal way of education. They just know what they've been brought up with. In regards to these people, our Islamic behavior is what comes out on top.
So through Islamic behavior, everything will deal with this behavior, and then they will know the right image about Muslims.
It gives them the reasons to ask questions. For example, when I was in high school, after I became Muslim, the girls wanted to know why I wouldn't touch them anymore. My teachers wanted to know why I started wearing different clothing. They wanted to know why I stopped smoking. They wanted to know different things. The behavioral change made a huge difference. Even my mother, she realized that I started treating her differently. Until now, I'm my mother's favorite. And I'm the only Muslim in the family. But it was through the behavioral change. I realized if someone is doing something bad, it really lessens the chances of anyone listening to you. Whereas if someone is trying to practice earnestly, with sincerity, trying to behave in a good manner, according to what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us, that it really softens people's hearts. And even for those who don't like you, they find they have to respect you.
And do you think that people are asking questions about the positive changes, for example, not smoking and not drinking alcohol, something like that? These positive changes, do you think that they are asking questions or reading books about Islam through these positive changes?
Usually, it's not necessarily people will read books all the time. It depends on the people. People that are well educated, yes, they may start to investigate, without a doubt. Those who are well educated, they will start to see what their child believes in, why he believes in this, why has it made such a strong impact on him, or when the parent couldn't do it. Because many parents, they begin to question their own parenting skills when they see an outside force is reprimanding their child. So for those that had a strong intellectual background, you would see that yes, they were reading. Some of my teachers began to read. Some of my friends began to read. And some of my friends did become Muslim.
Okay, do you think, in your opinion, that the number of Muslims are increasing despite of all the allegations about Islam as a religion?
Without a doubt, the number of Muslims are increasing. The number of Muslims are definitely increasing. The only issue is, are they getting the authentic knowledge?
That's the real question.
That's the real question. Because it was my test becoming a Muslim.
And do you think that the people, I mean, of course, what about the Islam increasing in the US and in New York especially?
The Islam in New York is definitely increasing dramatically by year. The people are really coming in bigger numbers. But once again, it goes back to what they're learning when they become a Muslim. Yes, people are becoming Muslims, but what kind of Muslims? And hopefully, I would like that the Sunnah is propagated. I like for the Sunnah to be propagated in a very strong manner so that the people can choose their Islam with wisdom.
And do you think the people in the US and in the European countries in general, do you think that they are believing what they see and what they watch in the media about Islam?
Only some
the wrong
people.
Picture about Islam.
Only some people. Only some people. As I told you from before, that people who are well educated, generally you will see that they tend to question a little bit more. And sometimes, even those who don't have formal education, they tend to be skeptical of what comes through the media, especially nowadays. But it is clear that people are definitely questioning. Many of the people are not falling for the media tricks that give bad propaganda to the religion. If that was the case, then why would so many people be entering Islam? So yes, the people are having an awakening, and we really have to thank some of the people and the ulama, the scholars that have dedicated their time and their effort to going out and being brave and propagating the Sunnah.
Okay. Through your experience and in your opinion, what are the common wrong images about Islam that are spread in the world, and how to correct them? It's a hard question, I know.
It's okay. Really, it's a question for a scholar. I'm far from that level. The worst images that are portrayed concerning Islam, really it starts with things such as terrorism, unfortunately, and hypocrisy, as well as, how should I say, excessive wealth and overindulgence. And honestly, these are some of the bad images that people portray about Islam in the West, as well as extremism. Now, in regards to terrorism, if the people know what the real Islam is, they will know what the real Islam is not. And they will know that Islam is perfect and every human being has mistakes. So they will know not to base the mistakes of individuals on the entire religion. And this is one of the most important points. You won't stop eating food altogether just because you ate a sandwich that gave you a tummy ache. So it falls along those lines. In regards to things as overindulgence and hypocrisy, it falls back to some people not knowing about the Sunnah. And They find themselves doing things that are contrary to the Islamic faith without even knowing that it's wrong. And yet they profess the religion of Islam. And you will find that there are some people, their overindulgence, it really makes the religion look bad. But the people need to know that this is the disease of a single individual or only some people, not Muslims as a whole. These aspects must be clarified.
In what way?
For example, for some people or some individuals, that you will see that gluttony tends to be a problem. Some people, they don't know when to stop buying. They don't know when to stop eating. Other people need to see that, look, this is a type of psychological phenomenon that affects more than just Muslims. Look at my country, for example. We are about 1% of the world's population, and yet more than 70% of us are obese. But we cannot say every American is an obese, overeating, greedy person. We know that's not the case. So we shouldn't base a single bad fact on everyone. The same way they shouldn't do that to us. And the only way I see to combat this is for aggressive propagation.
Okay. Have you tried to convince your friends or your parents, or at least to let them read books about Islam? Can you mention some examples?
Okay. For my parents, not so easy. Like, I already tried with my mother. I love her so much. And every time she would just tell me, you were born yesterday. And it's so hard for many parents to take the religion from their children sometimes, because in a way I'm telling them what you taught me was wrong, and they don't want to take it or see it as that. As for my friends, alhamdulillah, some of them did become Muslim. Some of them did become Muslim. MashaAllah, some of them are quite strong Muslim.
Did you give them some books, or at least have conversation with them? Or
many times we had very deep conversations. Very deep conversations. Oftentimes we would sit down.
Some specific points, for example?
Death. We used to sit down, just wonder, how are we going to die? Are we going to make it to the age of 20? We used to sit down and wonder these things. Is someone going to kill us? Are we going to be sent to a war? Or how are we going to die? And what's going to happen afterwards? And if we do die, how are we going to prepare ourselves? What will be the consequences? If we don't, we only have one chance to get it right. And this one thing was the key that made some of my friends come back to Islam. This one thing, the fact that we only have one chance to get it right. And one of my friends, I remember asking him, are you willing to bet your soul that God has a son? Would you bet your soul on it? Would you guarantee, are you really sure, with all of the contradictions in the Bible, with the fact that Allah created Adam first, and if anyone had the right to be called son, it was him. So would you really bet your soul on it? Alhamdulillah.
What was his answer? Was he hesitating?
No answer. And this was the answer.
Because he knew the answer from deeply that that you are right.
Yes. The fact that he gave no answer was the answer. Sometimes people are stricken at the moment of the realization that they were going in the wrong way for so long. And then they have to come to terms with the fact that my parents were not telling me the truth. They told me about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all of these different things. And then they said, oh my gosh, it's not true, none of it's true. And then they come to the realization and and then it comes to the acceptance. And with the acceptance, alhamdulillah, this is when many people, they start deciding for themselves that I can't take a chance.
Are all your friends Christian or from any other religion?
Some, at the time, not now, but at the time, some of my friends were Buddhist. Others, the majority, vast majority, were Christians. I had some friends from Laos and Cambodia back in high school. And alhamdulillah, some of them, they did become Muslim.
Sometimes when you have a conversation with a friend or a non-Muslim, you try to, not to answer his question, but at least to ask questions that will have him like asking himself a very important questions like what am I going to do in my life? Is there something, a life after death? I mean, these questions would, change his life and give him some kind of a turning point in his life. Don't you think this is the deal that you have?
I definitely agree with you, yes. And once again, it depends on who you're dealing with.
Of course, of course.
It depends on who you're dealing with. For some people, they need direct, straight answers. They need direct answers. Some people, they're really looking for answers, especially as young Americans in the realm of adolescence. We don't know our heads from our tails most of the time. And we're looking for some direction. And sometimes our parents, they're not guiding us in a clear way. And alhamdulillah, I've never ever had a question that Islam couldn't answer. And no one's ever asked me a question that Islam couldn't answer. Alhamdulillah. But in regards to making provocative questions into one's creed as to what they believe in the hereafter, yes, it does prove quite effective if the person is a thinker.
Okay, let's go back to the media and the channels around the world. How can we use the media in order to protect our religion, protect Islam from all the allegations of that were said about Islam, about terrorism and stuff like that?
The first thing is that the people should stand close to the scholars to get their education. And those people that should be close especially are the young people. So that way the gap between the youth and the elders are not broken. And this is the first way. Second way, in regards to the media must show the clear differences between someone who is a straight Muslim and someone who has aspects of hypocrisy, and someone who is a Sufi, someone who is a Brahmi, someone who is Shi'i. We must make clear differences, clear distinctions as to who is who and what's going on. Many people, even here in Saudi, they're not Muslim. They don't know the differences. And it creates major misunderstandings. Many people don't know the difference between Islam and regional cultures. They believe that many aspects of some regional cultures is the religion. Our job should be to clarify these matters, so that way the people can say for themselves, why are you doing that? A Muslim is not supposed to do that. I remember one time my mother, she had a friend from Sierra Leone, and my mother's friend's husband happened to be a drinker. And my mother said, why are you doing that? Why are you drinking alcohol? He said, it's okay, I'm not fasting. And my mother said, my son is a Muslim. You would never do that. So why are you doing it? Once a person knows what Islam is, they know what Islam is not. And that is the bottom line. Many of the people don't know what Islam is, and we allow people who are unqualified to propagate and defend the religion at the same time. So it's up to those who are qualified, who have strong knowledge, to come to the forefront and really push the true image of Islam, our morals, our ethics, so that way the people know the difference.
Okay, that's really wonderful. Let's talk about the celebrities in the US and the Muslim celebrities like Mike Tyson, like Muhammad Ali, like of course Icon, like the Jeremy Jackson. I think his name is Jeremy Jackson.
You mean Michael Jackson?
Yes,
and Jermaine,
his brother. Yes. Do you think that these celebrities have to play a very important role in order to encourage people and to give the people an idea about Islam?
Honestly, we must remember they're still normal people, and many people in the West who become celebrities don't consider the responsibility of being in the spotlight. This is something that we really have to keep in mind, that they're normal people, and the focus really should not be on them too much unless they've made the efforts to at least study some aspects of the basic creed of Islam. And when they have taken an ijazah or permission from a scholar to speak about a certain aspect of Islam, then yes. But in general, they're normal people that are caught within the wave of the media and the life of glitz and glamour. And they're susceptible, just like any other person, to falling into the pitfalls of these things.
So you think that, because sometimes, people when they admire the singers, the actors, sometimes they want to imitate them in every move and every thing they do. So through imitation, it can lead to embracing Islam.
As I said before, coming to Islam is one thing. Within Islam is a completely different journey. And a person coming to Islam from watching a singer on stage doing something unlawful, what kind of Islam do you think they're going to come in with? Yes, this is a religion from Allah, and He gives it to whomever He wills. And yes, celebrities do play a role, but we should not leave the major responsibility of this in their hands, as they're normal people and they're susceptible to major character flaws, and sometimes even being subjected to media manipulation makes them more vulnerable, and the image of Islam more vulnerable. So yes, there is a good side to it if those entertainers become Islamically educated. and yet there's a dangerous side to it.
Of course.
A 15-year-old was suffering from gunshot wounds.
Since I've come to Tawheed and I've read about the companions of the